Glenn, please stop it with the hot takes. We don't need the clickbait. We don't need the garbage just to get people's attention and to get them to click and watch on the video. That's not what this is, folks. I'm Glenn Naughton with Jet Nation Radio and JetNation.com. Be sure to log into JetNation.com where you can register and become a part of what is the most active Jets message board on the web. Daniel Jeremiah, apparently, reportedly, I haven't seen it, was clicking through my YouTube videos looking for actually the All-American Bowl, I believe, the inaugural. The American Bowl All-Star Game. Never heard of it. I saw it on the screen. I thought, I'll put that on. And as I'm scrolling to it, I pass one that says Daniel Jeremiah says Jets could trade up. Didn't even click to watch it because, honestly, the other day, with what's been happening in recent days, last week and a half with the Jets, had me thinking that's a possibility. And here's why. The situation where Tanner Engstrand was let go, and I said this at the time, I can't remember if I tweeted or if I said it on here, it felt an awful lot like the Mike LaFleur firing that we found out in time came from Woody Johnson. That Robert Saleh didn't want to fire his best friend, but Woody Johnson made it happen. And this felt like, man, Engstrand was one of the first guys AG brought along. They know him from Detroit. He didn't do a bad job. Despite, and this is when, I say people get too caught up in results. I know we say it's a results-based business, but sometimes that's stupid. If you're an offensive coordinator who's getting guys open all over the field and your quarterback stinks because your GM and your head coach took a dart throw at Justin Fields and you're putting Brady Cook out there when he's not ready, yeah, things are going to look bad. The results are going to suck. Does that mean that your job as a coordinator of designing an offense where you get people open and in position to make plays, does that mean you're not doing your job? No, it means you don't have somebody to execute what you've given them to do. So Engstrand, despite the results, wasn't bad. And I think a lot of Jets fans feel that way. He was far from the problem. And it would have been nice to have some continuity to build on. And he gets fired like this late in the process. First, they fire everyone in the league. Season ends, everyone's firing their people, except the Vikings. Everyone's firing their people. Fired, gone. Nothing from the Jets. 2 weeks later, you 8 guys, 9 guys, you're fired. You're all gone. It's like, okay, well, that was late, but whatever. And you're like, well, Engstrand survived. That makes sense. 3 days later, Engstrand's gone. Apparently they sat down. We want to change your role. I'm not happy with that. Agreed to part ways. But as I said, however you want to term it, one day he was there, the next day he was not. Fired, gone, quit, parted ways, whatever the reason may be, he's gone. That to me felt like a situation where, like I said, it felt similar to the LaFleur thing. But you look at the Jets' current situation being sitting there with pick 2 in desperate need of a quarterback, and the Oakland Raiders at pick 1. Now, I've seen Nick Faria, who's a good guy. I've done Scott Mason show with Nick once or twice. But Nick had to take, the Raiders might take a tackle. And even I was like, there's no way. There's no way the Raiders are. If you're picking at 1, you're taking the quarterback. You don't tank for a tackle. You don't tank for anything but a quarterback. And then a couple days ago, because I've heard 2 or 3 people say it, why in the world would the Raiders tank and then not take a quarterback? Which I fully agree with. But then I thought to myself, well, if you're the Raiders and you stink like the Jets do, and you might need more players than the Jets do, and you're sitting there and you watch the Jets trade Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams and get back all these picks, and you go, you know what? We have a shot to finish ahead of that team. We don't have 5 first and second rounders over the next 2 years, but that team does. And if we out-tank them, all we got to do is sit by the phone and twiddle our thumbs and wait for it to ring and look for the Florham Park area code and go, oh, Darren Muji's on the line. I wonder what he wants. And maybe that's a circumstance where the Jets could make a call and the Raiders are more than happy to listen. Yes, they're going out to watch Fernando Mendoza. I mean, 2 reasons. 1, the Jets might not call. 2, the Jets might call and not be willing to move up or not be willing to pay the price to move up. And 3, they may realize, maybe we do take this guy. And maybe they do. I'm not saying this is a sure thing by any stretch. But it's also not a sure thing that they do take him. Because the Jets have these 5 premiums over the next 2 years and an owner who is raising ticket prices again and who's going to need to make a splash. And who just, I'm assuming, full disclosure, stepped in or made some suggestions that Aaron Glenn make some changes. Aaron Glenn, all of a sudden, isn't it funny that Aaron Glenn came on board and he was like, I'm going to oversee the whole operation. I'm not a defensive head coach. I'm a head coach. That's my job now. My coordinators, that's what they're for. And now, less than 1 year later, he goes from I'm overseeing the whole thing, I'm not a coordinator, to I'm going to be a coordinator. And I want to bring on an experienced offensive coordinator, and that's his. That, according to Connor Hughes. If Connor's right, I have no reason to think, what he's saying isn't all that outlandish. That AG is going to run the defense, and he wants a proven veteran, Frank Reich, to run the offense and be the head coach of the offense. So as Aaron Glenn takes a step back, or sideways, or down, whatever you want to call it, moving down to take the defensive coordinator responsibilities with the head coach responsibilities, is it all that outlandish to think Woody Johnson will step in again and say, Darren, listen, buddy, see these season ticket prices? Those are old. Those are last year's. Here's the new ones. You see how they're higher? I need people to pay that. And Geno Smith ain't doing that for me. And Kyler Murray ain't doing that for me. Tua, no. I need a guy that gets the fan base fired up and gets that money rolling in. And there's only one dude who can do that. And look, Darren, I appreciate it that you want to go out and use these picks on other assets and maybe take a quarterback next year. But I'm raising ticket prices this year. And maybe next year too. But right now, I'm raising tickets right now. So I need someone day one this year for the fan base to get fired up about. They're not going to come out for a running back. They might be happy if you take Jeremiah Love. They might be happy if you take Jordan Tyson. They might like Caleb Downs, but those guys aren't selling tickets there. I need my money. And I need a guy to get me the money. And you're the guy to get me the guy that gets me the money. So go ahead, call Oakland. Sorry, Las Vegas. Stop moving, everybody. I'm old. Call Las Vegas and ask them what they want for that first round pick. And sure, haggle, go back and forth, give up as little as possible, but get that pick. And then you could be the Raiders sitting there being sensible. The Raiders might be smart about this and say, there's no quarterback that's turning this around for us in year one. We need a lot of players. We would like a couple of first rounders this year and throw in a second rounder, and then maybe 1 or 2 first rounders next year to go with our first rounder. So then we'll be the team with 4 or 5 premium picks over the next 2 years, and we'll kick the can down the road. We'll get a quarterback next year. Maybe we're in the Arch sweepstakes. Maybe, whatever. Name the quarterback. I mean, Arch is obviously the big name. But I would bet money. People are like, oh, you never know what's going to happen next year. You don't. But I will guarantee you there will be more than one quarterback worth taking in next year's class. So if you're the Raiders and you feel like we suck, we're going to suck this year, we're going to suck next year, we're probably going to be top 5 again next year, would we rather a quarterback this year or a quarterback next year in which we get 4 additional premium picks or 3 additional premium picks versus a quarterback this year and no additional premium picks? So the Raiders would be smart. I mean, it would behoove the Raiders to say, wait for that call from Muji. And once he starts asking what we want, we'll start high and see if we can get, 2 1s and a 2 and only move down 1 spot, still get the best player in the draft who doesn't play quarterback. So the Raiders, I think, would be a great move for them. So that here's what it comes down to, folks. The Raiders need picks and Woody needs to sell tickets. And when those 2 things are in place, don't rule it out. That's all I'm saying. I'm not sitting here saying right now on, what is it, January 31st or whatever, I'm not sitting here right now saying that the Jets are absolutely trading up for Fernando Mendoza to the top pick. What I'm saying on January 31st is that Woody Johnson just raised ticket prices. He needs somebody to help him sell those tickets. And the Las Vegas Raiders are as bad as the Jets, if not worse, are in dire need of premium draft picks. So when you say to me, why would the Raiders have tanked to not take a quarterback? Because it's entirely possible the Raiders tanked to wait for Darren Muji to call and offer them ones and twos and maybe a three somewhere along the way in exchange for that quarterback. Raiders kick the can down the road. They get 2 starters this year. They get their quarterback next year with a couple more starters. And all the Jets get is they're 1 year ahead with the quarterback. The Raiders get the quarterback next year, and they get all the picks that go along with it. So again, not saying it's going to happen, not a bold proclamation, but I think it would be silly to sit by and say there's no way the Raiders are trading out of that spot. So we will see. Let's see real quick. Big Green, hey bud, how was the ride back? Right from where? I've been moving around so much lately, back and forth from here. Oh, if you mean the Senior Bowl, did not go. Got the coach's film from the Senior Bowl, and I've been watching all that. The inflation, the prices to fly out there from England to the you're talking like $3-4 grand for a few days out there. I'm not. If you guys are in that financial position, congrats to you. You made better decisions than I did. But yeah, I can't be dropping like 4 Gs to go watch prospects for 3 days. Let's see. Matt says that's all what we wish for. Highly unlikely it happens. See, Matt, here's the thing, and it kind of disproves your point. I don't know which one you're wishing for, because I could see. I know fans who were like, take Mendoza, get him no matter what. And I know fans, me and others, who were like, you know what, keep all the picks, draft the players, get a quarterback next year. That's me. And I'm not saying don't get a quarterback this year, but like roll the dice on a guy. Go get a mid tier starter who hasn't not even mid. Like go get an unknown. Look, Malik Willis, I love that idea. Miami will have a tough time because of their cap situation, but remember, they just hired the Green Bay coordinator as their head coach, who was bringing with him either the quarterback's coach, I believe. I think he's bringing the quarterback's coach with him to Miami to run the offense. So Malik Willis to Miami makes a ton of sense. I think that happened. That would be my first preference at this point in time. But could it be, all right, do the Jets go out and sign Kirk Cousins, who's going to be released, and then draft Garrett Nussmeier? I would have no problem with that. I would have zero problem with that at all. If the Jets sign Cousins, draft Nussmeier, and then you get to keep all your premium picks. And if Nussmeier, who was a projected first rounder before the season, we got to see who the offensive coordinator is. We got to see the coach. I mean, Frank Reich, we'll see what happens there. But there are other ways, Matt, is my point. So I'm not sold that every Jets fan wants one or the other. I've heard good arguments for both. I would love if Mendoza was the Jets quarterback. I mean, he appears to be the most mature, level-headed prospect we've seen in years. Like, the personality is like, I don't know. He seems like the type of guy, like, he's not staying out past 8 o'clock and all he's drinking before bedtime is milk. I could be wrong, but it's like, you look at that guy, you're like, okay, I feel pretty good, pretty confident that guy's not going to get in any trouble. Which, with all the things you got to worry about in the league today, I wouldn't mind that one bit. Big Green says I would take Ty Simpson. I'm beyond the point of taking guys with 15 college starts. We've seen it fail every single time. Every time. Sanchez, terrible terrible everywhere. Darnold, terrible as a Jet, fine elsewhere. Zach Wilson, not enough starts, terrible with the Jets. Who knows what the hell happens with him? He might wash out of the league, but you know what? Sam Darnold's going to the Super Bowl right now. I guarantee you 2 years after he was gone, when he was in Carolina doing nothing, everybody was like, told you Darnold was going to suck. We don't know these things. But all we do know is that taking these guys who don't have experience, rarely, it's QB is the hardest position to find. You then make it exponentially harder when you try to find one who only started a few games. So I'm not taking Ty Simpson for that reason. Not in the first round anyway. If Ty Simpson falls to the third round, sure. And I apologize if that's what you meant, Big Green. If you meant take Ty Simpson in the third, I have no problem with that. But round 1 and 2, where people are talking about, I don't like that idea. Tony, the GM, says Mendoza's not an elite QB prospect. Again, That's all a matter of opinion, Tony. I think the ball placement is absolutely off the charts. The leadership traits, we've seen him perform at a high level and win football games at 2 different programs in 2 years. I think he's not, look, he's not Andrew Luck, he's not Caleb Williams, but he is a very, very good prospect. Let's see. Thought you went to Mobile. No, Big Green, not this year, man. Hopefully next year we shall see. Ryu Ken says sad franchise. Ain't that the truth? Kirk might have better options. That's true too. I mean, everybody might have better options. So we'll see what happens there. But the bottom line, Woody's desperate, has to sell tickets. Don't rule it out. Mobile didn't go, watched the coach's film of 2 of the 3 days. I haven't watched all of them yet. I have one more day to watch. But I'm going to scroll through the Senior Bowl roster and just pop out a few names of guys who I thought were really impressive. Some of these guys I've already tweeted about because I liked them a lot going into the process, and now they really jumped out. One guy who really I thought he would have a huge year this year, and he had a good year. He had a good year at Notre Dame, right? Malachi Fields, liked him a lot at Virginia, put up 800 yards each of the past couple of years, transferred to Notre Dame. I thought from what I saw, first, I saw some highlights popping out, looked really good. Went and watched the film myself yesterday and today. And as our good friend Dom C said, he commented on a tweet that I fired off the other day saying Fields may have been the best prospect in Mobile. Look, big guy, moves so well for a big guy that I was surprised that you look at some of these draft prognosticators, these mock draft sites, and they've got him as like a day 3 pick, and I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Like the guy that I saw at Virginia, the body control, the hands, the quickness for his size, it all to me, like I thought, like easily top 100, maybe top 50. After Mobile, I'm feeling a lot better about those thoughts than the draft folks should, who have him ranked as the 200th or 300th best player in the draft. I just do not see that. Caleb Banks, DT out of Florida, just manhandling, tossing people left and right, puts himself firmly in the first round discussion. Again, the Jets need a DT, so he is somebody they should be watching. But again, he's a guy who is going to go, I think, a lot earlier than folks thought earlier in the process. Nate Borkircher, saw him make a couple of big plays. I think the tight end class is a pretty good one. I think Borkircher had himself a decent week. And again, the game's tomorrow. So these are guys to watch out for, when the live bullets start flying and guys are hitting. So when you're watching that game, these are just a few players for you to look out for. Star Thomas. I was actually, like I said, I was just watching the All-American Bowl or whatever it was called. And as I turned it off to start recording, they showed Star Thomas lining up in the backfield. I've watched him a little bit with Tennessee and liked him. Thought he was a solid prospect, so he's one to watch. On Sunday, Diego Pavia was throwing some dimes, folks. He is an interesting prospect. The dude's 5'9". 5'9" quarterbacks don't make it in the league. I think that's even shorter than Kyler Murray. I'm pretty sure it is. It's in that range. But the dude he just balls. He just wins, and then he goes out there to the Senior Bowl, and he's dropping bombs, and it's like, damn, this guy just every situation you put him in, he plays well. So watch him. I mean, he's gonna have a hard time going earlier than day 3. I think the rant when he didn't win the Heisman did not help him. I think teams are gonna look at that. It's like, oh, are you pouty, child, whatever. That could hurt his stock a little bit for a guy who was, if he was 6'3", he'd get away with that a lot easier than he does at 5'9". So we'll see how he does, but from what I saw, he was throwing some absolute dimes. Let's see, Aaron Anderson, quick, fluid slot guy. I thought he looked good in Mobile. He's another one who could go early on. Caleb Elam-Zor. I haven't watched him a lot, to be honest, and didn't stand out in the couple days I watched. I may have missed him. And our good friend, again, I mentioned Dom earlier, mentioned a few of the linebackers. I really like this class. Elam-Zor is the guy I've watched least, and this isn't me. This is Dom saying he thinks he might be the best in the group. So I'm going to be watching him later today. I think that I do like the group. Barry Brown. Let's talk some Barry Brown. Why am I excited about Barry Brown? I've been on the Barry Brown train for a few years now. Watched him as a freshman at Kentucky, and it was like, Jesus, that guy can fly. Like just smoking defenders. Huge plays as a return man. Not that the Jets need that, but it doesn't hurt to have it when you're entering the draft. And he had 2 of the 3 days in Mobile. He was clocked at the fastest time, just over 20 miles an hour. At one point, I forget who the DB was, but just broken ankle, had the dude, falling the opposite way when Barry Brown fake left, broke right. DB fell over on his side, Barry Brown wide open. Tons and tons of speed. I expect Barry Brown to clock as like a top 3-5 guy at Indy. Wouldn't be surprised if he's sub 4.4. We will see. If I'm not mistaken, I vaguely recall watching him as a freshman and hearing the broadcast say he was like sort of record-setting track guy in high school. I could be misremembering that, but I believe that's the case. So Barry and Brown, one of my favorites a couple years ago, put him on my guy list, my preseason my guy list this year. I think I'm like 99% sure. Barry and Brown was my guy. I did a big school, small school, every position. So some guys, super long shots, but a couple guys I threw on there that I think did well. So that's Barry and Brown. Zakee Wheatley. Actually, no, sorry. I'm thinking of a play he made, but that was a game I watched the other day. That wasn't Senior Bowl practices. Ted Hurst, another guy, much like Fields, a dude who just, you look at the foot quickness, the ability to break out. There was, when I watched him at Georgia State, a couple of plays where he ran some out routes, and similar to what I was just saying about Barry and Brown, just creating separation and leaving DBs in the dust. Did that a couple times in one-on-ones. You saw the play. Well, I'm assuming you saw the play deep down the field, one-handed touchdown catch in the end zone down in Mobile this week. He's had himself a guy, as they say, made himself some money. Jaden Ott, I mentioned him the other day when I did a running backs preview. Only thing that jumped out at me, honestly, I don't remember seeing a lot from him, but a couple of really good pass block reps. One-on-one, taking on blitzers and standing guys up, holding them off. And I did mention, I believe I mentioned, if not I meant to, that he is one of the better pass blocking backs in this class. So he could be one of those guys, if you pick him up, he's somebody who you might be able to play sooner than some rookies who need a lot of work in that area. Derek Moore out of Michigan looked like an absolute monster on some plays. He's one of those guys that coming into the season, similar to Malachi Fields, but even more so, because Moore was like, some people were touting him as a possible top 10 guy. He's got monster ability, and the production at Michigan wasn't what you thought it would be this year. And he had some reps where he was just steamrolling guys. He's a real handful off the edge. This is a really good edge class. Really good edge class. Zion Young, another guy to keep an eye on tomorrow. He's a guy who had some really impressive reps. Let's see who else we have here. Taylon Green was Taylon Green. He was inconsistent. He'd make a throw where you go, oh, that's a guy, that's a draftable guy. And then he'd have somewhere you're going, maybe day 3. But I still like him. I would gladly see the Jets take him with a day 3 roll of the dice type of pick. Garrett Nussmeier. I mean, there's the big one, right? Because here's your projected first rounder who kind of flopped during the season, and this is it. Mobile is his opportunity to show scouts, hey, maybe it was the coaching, maybe it was, and there's been talk, maybe he was injured. He actually had a really nice back shoulder throw to Barry and Brown. I mentioned Kentucky earlier. He transferred to LSU, for those of you unfamiliar. So he was Nussmeier's teammate this year. They connected on a really good ball down in Mobile this week. But Nussmeier, ball was getting out. Ball had some zip on it. So he's a guy. He might be the most important guy for Jets fans to watch. Because, my God, if he could emerge as a guy that they say, you know what? He might be worth pick 16 or 33 if they think he'll be there. Like, we think this guy's going to be a pro QB. But because of the way he performed, maybe no one's going to take him in round 1, or maybe you trade up from pick 33 to pick 31, get back in the first round and grab him. I mean, that whole 5th-year option thing has become kind of useless, because if you're good, you're getting extended before that, and if you're not exercising the option. So I can't really think of a case recently where it's like, oh, that team was really lucky they had a 5th year. I mean, I guess I'm thinking of quarterbacks. I guess at other positions where it's iffy and the money isn't insane, it's good to have that 5th year. But with quarterbacks, if your quarterback's good, you're extending him before that. If he's not, you're not exercising it. So really, 4th year, 5th year, rarely matters. I'm not saying it would never matter. You could have this guy's on the cusp. It's 4 years. We're still not sure. We would like to see another year. I guess that's possible, but I don't know. When I hear people say 5th year option, I think you're either re-signed or let go by then. But I suppose there could be some exceptions. Continuing down the list here of guys who stood out, Justin Jolly, again, another good tight end in this class, North Carolina State. That team was not good this year. That obviously kind of hurt him. Let's see. Somebody I wanted to get to. Okay, so here we go. Another preseason my guy. He was the sleeper because Caleb Downs is my number one safety. He's number one defense player in the country to me coming into the year. But a safety who I also liked a whole lot, not small school. We're not talking like Prairie View, but not a top 20 type team. TCU, Bud Clark had himself a hell of a week down there. Absolute ball hawk. I've been on the Bud Clark train this is year 3 now of watching him. I've always liked him, and he really impressed down there this week. So good for him. Could set himself up to move up in the draft. And maybe if you don't get a Caleb Downs early on, I would love to see the Jets grab Bud Clark at some point or another. Kyle Lewis, the linebacker out of Pitt. I tweeted about him a few weeks ago. Just an all-around guy. Would the Jets take him? I fear they may not because I think they're going to want a bigger backer in there at some point. I think Quincy Williams is gone. I think Jamien Sherwood stays, possibly moves out to the will. Then you're looking for a Mike. Maybe that's Anzalone. We'll touch on that in a minute. But I think Kyle Lewis weighing 225, 224. Whatever. Yeah, he came in at 224. I don't know that the Jets want another backer in the 220s, but we'll see about that. Really good player if you do want him. Let's see. Xavier Sori didn't pop to me, but I really do like him a lot. Let's see who else we got. Romello Height, he flashed at times. Smaller edge at 234. This class in general is a big edge class, but Romello Height, not the biggest guy, but he is a fantastic player. Getting to the quarterback, he's one of those guys, right? You're watching Texas Tech because they had so much talent on defense. I was probably less familiar with him than anybody when this was a couple months ago now when I was watching Texas Tech. And I'm like, wow, why isn't anybody talking about this dude? Like, look at the spin move, look at the power. He's not a power guy, but the quickness. He's a guy who I think could be an effective rusher, and he did stand out a little bit down in Mobile. A couple other names, Gabe Jackas, he's one of the bigger edges, 260. I think he was listed bigger than that in college or in Illinois. I'm not sure. He's another guy I've been watching for a couple years. I don't think he's going to be like a double-digit sack guy, but I think he will be a JFM type, like harass the quarterback, might be able to move him inside a little bit, have some versatility there, good motor, good power. I think Jackas, and he did have some really good reps in the one-on-ones. Watched him a little bit earlier on. And like I said, I do have another day to watch. Bo Stevens, another guy, Iowa lineman, folks. I tweeted about him a couple months ago as well, and some people always just assume like everyone who's not a top 20, top 50 guy must suck. And there were people like, stop talking about UDFAs. And I'm like, look, I don't know how the league views the guy. Maybe he is a UDFA. But to my eyes, when I watch Bo Stevens on film, I'm like, that dude looks like an NFL lineman to me. Bull jerk, like power in his hands, grabs dudes, tosses them aside, gets outside on screens, does a really nice job of finding his target. Just a physical, powerful dude who plays, fundamentally sound football player. And he was one of the guys I was looking forward to watching this week. And when I turned on the film earlier and saw that bull jerk, just push, pull, throwing guys to the ground, I was like, yeah, that's the dude. That's why I tweeted about this guy, that I think he could be a really good player. Because Logan Jones' team, I said it, no problem with it. Look, the Jets need a left guard. Jets, you could argue, could use an upgraded center. You want to go Logan Jones and then Bo Stevens later on and try those two? Go for it. And I'm not even saying Bo Stevens is like a day one guy in terms of starting, but I think he could develop into a starting offensive lineman. People are funny with this stuff, man. They get mad if you suggest a player who's like a project. Like, oh, I think this guy can be good. Shut up. James Brockermeyer. I would say he's the guy who I did watch some leading up to the process. But for those handful of guys I didn't have a ton of exposure to, the reps that I watched of him, I thought he was fantastic. I thought James Brockermeyer really looked, setting his anchor and just standing up to bull rushes. Really, really nice job by James Brockermeyer in Mobile. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know when they come out, I'm always curious. I think PFF grades the practices, which I think is useful because I like to watch and then see who I liked and go back and say, all right, am I crazy? Does anyone agree with me here? But Brockermeyer, probably the only name I haven't seen anyone comment on or tweet. Well, not the only, but one of the guys I really liked who I haven't seen anybody else mention. J.C. Davis, the tackle from Illinois, I thought he looked really good. They played him a little bit of tackle, a little bit guard. I think he can be a solid player. And I think that Joshua Cuevas, good player, doesn't have that sort of modern, or at least didn't show it in Mobile from the reps that I watch. He doesn't have that quick twitch, sort of these ultra athletic like the Kozio Tanners of the world. But Joshua Cuevas, I think, can be a good player. I think he could be a decent mid-round pick who can be a starting tight end. And he did a ton for Alabama for that defense down there. And the last guy we'll touch on, another favorite of mine, Nick Barrett, DT out of South Carolina. I thought he looked phenomenal in the one-on-ones. Did a really good job. Just tons of power, really good first step. He can be a menace in the middle. I've seen him projected as a day 3 guy. I could see him going late day 2. Maybe someone thinks more of him. Who am I leaving out? There is someone that I'm leaving out who I wanted to mention, so I'm looking for him now. I don't know why he didn't come up in the... There he is, Lee Hunter, the DT out of Texas Tech. Another one, another monster. This DT class is not as good as last year's, but it is good. It is really good. And he's another one. I think I mentioned 3 or 4 guys just in scrolling through, picking off names that popped out as players that I would gladly see the Jets take. Last thing to touch on, tweeted about it, or didn't tweet. I just put an article on the front page of JetNation.com. Had some negative flashbacks. Are there any other type of flashbacks for Jets fans? It doesn't feel that way. Alex Anzalone. So the Detroit Lions linebacker who seems to be the guy, I don't know who did it first. A few weeks ago, someone said Jets Alex Anzalone. And since then, every single Jets account I follow is like, Anzalone to the Jets. And the Jets are getting Anzalone. There are people in Detroit saying Anzalone to the Jets. People are talking about this thing like it's done deal. Couple things here. One, don't be so sure. I get that Anzalone played for Aaron Glenn in Detroit, and they had a great relationship when the Jets signed Aaron Glenn to be their head coach. Alex Anzalone sent out a tweet or a message, Instagram, something like that, saying, thanks so much, Coach Glenn, you always believed in me, something like that. Clearly a solid relationship there. And I thought about that. I thought, yeah, they have a really good relationship. I'll probably sign Anzalone. Then I thought back to 2004. And for those of you who are old enough, you will remember. And for those of you who don't, listen to this. The Jets were in the market for a safety. And John Lynch, future Hall of Fame safety, one of my favorite players. I say all the time, look, there's no other team I root for than the Jets, obviously. The I have multiple teams, I'll never get that. But when I lived in South Florida, or south of Tampa, Florida, not in South Florida, I was in a little place called Bradenton. When the Jets were on, I was always in the sports bars watching the Jets games, and during commercials, I'd watch the Bucks. When the Jets weren't on, I'd watch the Bucks because that was the best defense I've ever seen in my life. Well, sorry, the Ravens were, but the Bucks were a close second, and the Bucks, I think, did it for longer at that level. John Lynch, monster. So many players on that team, I used to be like, God, I wish that dude was a Jet. I wish Barber was a Jet. I wish Warren Sapp was a Jet. Should have been a Jet. All these players. Derek Brooks, wish that guy was a Jet. I would just sit there and just wish these guys were Jets. Then John Lynch becomes a free agent. And you start reading, oh, look. Real quick in the chat, Banana, no way Brady gives number 1 of the Jets. Look, Brady's a big presence, but he's a minority owner. Like, he can have say, but they're not going to go around, like, not making moves because Tom Brady said so. Like, I would think they'd be more likely to like, if Brady says, hey, I love this guy, and he's, we really should do what we can to get him, they'd probably be likely to take that on board. But if you're a GM and you're trying to build your roster for the future, you're not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to go to those 5 premium picks because one of the minority owners told me not to. Like that ain't going to happen. In my opinion. I mean, maybe the Raiders are that dysfunctional that they're going to take his advice on what to do with their picks. But back to the John Lynch thing. So John Lynch gets released by the Bucs late in his career. The Jets need a safety. Jets fans are like, oh, they should go after Lynch. And then you're like, oh, you got the connection with Herm Edwards, right? Herm Edwards was his position coach. So certainly there'll be a reason to make that move, and he'll want to come here. And then you find out John Lynch is the godson of one of Herm Edwards' kids. And you're like, oh, done deal. John Lynch is a Jet. Buy your jerseys. Not only played for the guy, he's the guy's son's godfather. John Lynch is coming to New York. No, he's not. He was like, Herm, see you, dude. Tell my godson I said goodbye because I'm going to Denver. The reason he gave is because it was closer to home in California. Yeah, nothing like a super easy commute down the road from Denver to Stanford or wherever. So yeah, let's not just assume because Alex Anzalone played for Aaron Glenn in Detroit that he's dying to jump on board. And the Jets also are bad. Like, does Alex Anzalone? So there's two pieces to this. He's never won a ring, and he's an older guy. I mean, he's not like 36, but he's going to be 32 the first month of the season. So he's an older guy. When you get older, you tend to prioritize winning, unless you're washed and somebody's willing to give you a boatload of money, and you're like, well, I don't have many games left in me anyway. Let's just take the money. But if you still feel like you can play, and a good team makes a competitive offer, I would imagine you go to the good team and try to win something before you retire. And then there's the injury piece, which, in fairness to Anzalone, 4 of the last 6 years, he has played in at least 14 games. So credit to him. He's managed to stay mostly healthy. He had some injuries early in his career, had a broken forearm a couple years ago, but that was one of only 2 years in the last 6 that he didn't play 14 games. But he had a ton of injuries in college. He only played 24 games in 4 years in college. And that was because 1 year he played 10 or 11. I think he had multiple years of 4 games or less in college because he had so many injuries. Then he gets to the league, had some injuries. Then stayed healthy for a few years, no injuries for like 3-4 years, gets the broken forearm, and then he's been healthy since then. But he's 32. So you take a 32-year-old NFL linebacker with a long list of injuries in his history, what are the odds he doesn't start breaking down? That would be my concern. So if you're the Jet, but this could be a CJ Mosley type thing. Does Aaron Glenn say, look, no matter what, I'm running my defense. I need somebody I know to run it well. So I'm bringing Anzalone in here. And I know there's another team offering him whatever million a year. We're going to offer 4 or 5 million more than that. We're not going to let the offers be close. We're going to get him in here. Fine. Maybe you grossly overpay. That convinces him to come over and not go to a better team. And now you're running the risk of trotting a defense out there with a 32-year-old Mike linebacker with an extensive injury history. Not the route I would take, but I mean, very good player when he's healthy. Not denying that. There is a good chance he would play great in a system he knows. So I'm not, like, if the Jets sign him and then he balls out, don't be like, Glenn, you said it would be a stupid move. No, I'm saying it's a risky move. I think a very risky move. Listen, remember the Aaron Rodgers situation? When I was like, I don't know that I give up that many premium picks for a guy that's old, for a guy who's that old, who might get injured and who will have multiple years of huge dead cap hits. Shut up, Glenn. Don't be a hater. All right? I'm not wishing anyone injury. I'm not saying someone will get injured. I'm saying as you get older, and especially if you have a lengthy injury history, there's a pretty good chance you're not gonna get more durable as you get older. Put it that way. Alex Anzalone is going to sign a 5-year deal and play 16 games each of the next 5 years. How great would it be if it did that? I would love for people to pull this up in 5 years and go, you said he wouldn't do it, and he did it. That would be awesome. I don't see it happening. Not that way anyway, folks. But let's wrap this one up. Let's get out of here. As I said, do not rule out a trade with the Raiders. Not saying it will happen, but I think it would be foolish to say it's impossible. Anything is possible when you've got an owner motivated by money, raising ticket prices, who doesn't have a quarterback. That'll wrap it up for this one. Have a good one.